Good morning, San Antonio, and welcome to another episode of Platica Politica. Listen, we got some chisme for you today. Joining us this morning is Katy Padilla Stout, who is running in the Texas 23rd Congressional District. That's the district that is currently held by Congressman Tony Gonzalez, whose political career has gone out in scandal, it seems, and now Brandon Herrera has defeated him in the Republican primary election. And so now Katy Padilla is going to be facing off with Brandon Herrera for the 23rd congressional seat. Also joining us this morning is another race that's been a little dramatic, or I should say quite dramatic. It's Alicia Perez, who ran and faced off with Judge Rosie Speedling Gonzalez, who was perceived to be the darling of the Democratic Party. Judge Gonzalez, now soon to be former Judge Gonzalez, found herself in quite a bit of scandal this last election cycle, so much so that Democratic primary voters chose Alicia Perez to replace her in that court. So we're going to be talking to her, learning about her thoughts, her ideals, and what we can look forward to with a Judge Alicia Perez. Also, changing the subject a little bit will be David Anthony Tijerina. He is an attorney with Carabin Law. He's going to be talking about a very important issue, a very serious matter that we need to be aware of here in Bexar County. So stay tuned. We got a great show for you today. We'll be right back. Está sintonizado. You are listening to Platica Politica. We're live on KEDA Radio Jalapeño 99.9 FM and 1540 AM and on Facebook Live. Stay here for the latest news, politics, and a little bit of chisme. We are back on KEDA Radio Jalapeño. We hope you're enjoying this beautiful Saturday morning. Joining us is Triste Ordez from VoteVets. How are you doing this morning, ma'am?
Doing great. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. I have had the opportunity to learn about VoteVets, and I thought it'd be a great organization to feature right here on Platica Politica. So, Tristeza, tell us, what is VoteVets?
So VoteVets is a national progressive veterans organization. We have over 700 members that we represent across the country, including territories like Puerto Rico, because we know that Latinos also serve in the military. And a big part of what we do is making sure that we help get great veteran Democrats elected and also organize veterans around the issues that matter most to them. You know, one of our biggest goals this election cycle is to take back the House. And so we're doing that one state and one campaign at a time.
That's amazing. So you provide support and infrastructure for people who are veterans who want to run for office. That is amazing. How long have you guys been doing that? Are you doing anything in San Antonio?
Yeah, so we have been around for 20 years now. And I'm so excited to be able to be a part of the VoteVets team and be able to continue to push this mission of making sure that we have the elected leaders that we deserve. And we're doing things all around the country, including in San Antonio. We're going to be there actually this Monday, March 23rd, yes. And doing a Veterans Town Hall with Senator Ruben Gallego.
That's going to be exciting. You all are coming to town, having this event. Who is Ruben Gallego for those that don't know him and haven't heard of him?
Yeah, of course. So Senator Ruben Gallego is a Marine Corps combat veteran who served in Iraq. And he is also the senator of Arizona. And we're so excited that this longtime friend of VoteVets is going to be with us here in San Antonio. And it excites me, you know, as a Tejana, to be able to have a fellow Marine, because as you can see, I'm a Marine myself.
That's right.
So to have my Marine hermano and longtime VoteVets friend to be a part of this event that we're hosting for veterans, military families, and all allies, because as we know, we can't do what we do as service members without the support of our families and the community.
That's amazing. And so the event's going to be Monday, March 23rd at 6 p.m. Where can people learn about the event, hear more about it?
Yeah, well, they can connect with us on all social media platforms at VoteVets. We have announcements on our social media, links to our Mobilize where folks can RSVP. We strongly encourage folks to RSVP in the links on all our social media platforms to make sure that we have enough space for everyone that is going to be able to be there.
That's going to be awesome. And I heard that you might be giving away some t-shirts.
Yes, we're doing a giveaway. So, real quick, let me just show. I have my Veterans Contra Trump shirt, but we're going to be giving away, as we prepare for 250 years of our country, we're going to be giving away some of our 250 No Kings Todavía Sin Reyes merch to the first 100 people that check into our event. Every RSVP will receive a free sticker. So again, be sure you RSVP, show up on time so that way you can get some of this free merch. Look, my dog's excited. I hear him barking.
I love that. I love that. And people in San Antonio, like I always tell folks, you got to RSVP. You got to let people know that you're going to show up so they know how to plan for their event. Hey, I'm checking out your website. And one of the things that you guys say is that you believe in electing veterans who are fighting for a secure, prosperous, and democratic future. Why is that important for you?
I mean, service is such a big part of our identity as veterans. And we have seen, I always talk about Taylor Ramett, and what he did here in North Texas, where I am. He is a prime example of the type of leaders that we need to have and the type of leaders that we trust as voters. And to be able to elect more people like him and other great Democrats around the country that we are currently supporting is a big part of this, right?
Really? No, that is important. And I always hear folks complain about the Democratic Party or about this or about, people in politics. And I always tell folks, if you don't like who's in office, then run against them. Encourage somebody, support somebody that's running against them, get involved and be a part of that change that you want to see happen.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. And, we endorse some great candidates in San Antonio, too. Mm-hmm. And it's exciting that in Texas, we have so many great veterans on the ballot that are standing toe to toe with some folks that we want to make sure we take out of office this November.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for that work that you're doing. Tell us once more about the event. It's Monday, March 23rd.
Yes, our event is Monday, March 23rd at 6 p.m. Folks can RSVP on any of our social media websites at VoteVets, our social media platforms. If folks want to connect with me directly as well, they can find me on Instagram at Triste Ordez, and I'd be happy to share any additional information or how folks can get involved if they are interested in volunteering. Doors open at 5:30. Please RSVP so we can get you some free merch and get there early so that way you can get one of these shirts.
All right. Thank you so much, Tristeza, for being with us. And we look forward to seeing everybody at the VoteVets event on Monday, March 23rd at 6 p.m. You're listening to Platica Politica. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Every March, we recognize the achievements, resilience, and contributions of women throughout history. So today we pause to celebrate the women who have built Texas. Texas Governor Ann Richards.
And I think one of the saving graces of Democrats is that we are candid. We talk straight talk. We tell people what we think. And that tradition and those values live today.
Former Texas Senator Leticia Van de Putte.
Mr. President, parliamentary report.
State report.
At what point must a female senator raise her hand or her voice to be recognized over the male colleagues in the room?
The late Congresswoman Barbara Jordan.
We are a people trying not only to solve the problems of the present, unemployment, inflation, but we are attempting on a larger scale to fulfill the promise of America. We are attempting to fulfill our national purpose to create and sustain a society in which all of us are equal.
Former Texas Senator Wendy Davis.
Texans expect honesty and respect from their elected officials, and they will take their power back when disrespected and misused. It's your strength, your courage, your conviction that causes me to say today, I believe in Texas more than ever.
From science and politics, arts to sports, and everyday leadership, women have shaped our world in countless ways, and we are forever grateful.
And we're back on Platica Politica. I hope everybody is enjoying this gorgeous Saturday morning. Joining us this morning is Alicia Perez. She is the judge-elect of Bexar County Court at Law number 13. How are you doing, Alicia? Judge, I should...
Well, not quite yet, but yes, I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
So are you honorable or not quite yet? What's happening? Do we call you your honor yet? Or is that like a wait till you get the vote?
I've always been honorable, Robert. Always. What people call me at this time is up to them. I take the bench January 1st next year. So technically I'm not a judge until that time.
All right. But you maintain that you were still honorable, darn it.
Yes. What a question.
I know. I'm just teasing. Hey, so you decided to jump in this race. Obviously, it was a bit of a controversial race in the sense that the person that you ran against found herself in some trouble. So we won't go too much into that, but I want to know what made you decide to take on this court and take on this fight?
Well, for me, on a personal level, I was just having issues getting my clients out of jail on time. And it had happened in the fall of 2024, and it happened again last fall. And I was getting frustrated because I thought the rule of the law was not being followed. And I had to take extraordinary measures to get my client out of jail and get his case dismissed when he'd been sitting in jail for 60 days on an uncharged misdemeanor. So I was pretty frustrated, and I checked in with some of my colleagues about issues they had been having, and I realized if we didn't put somebody up in this race, that we might not get the change that we needed for this court to make sure those laws are being followed like we believe they should be followed.
When you want something done right, you got to do it yourself sometimes. And I love that you stepped up. This was a tough campaign for you because it was a race that, a lot of folks don't like to get involved in politics when it's messy or when, maybe they don't want to mess with the person that's there because they're afraid of that person for whatever reason. But you took the bull by the horns.
Well, I have this attitude that we've got to do what's right, regardless of what it may look like to other people. I don't play politics very well. I just have to do what needs to be done. And I think that when you follow your truth, that you're going to get to the right place. And I think that's kind of what happened for me in this race. I found my values and I stuck to them, and I kept my messaging consistent. We need due process. We need dignity. We need access. And a judge is there to stay calm and help the court carry on. And I think that's something that I can do. And I think in this race, the voters agreed with me.
There is a judge that's in that case, or in that courtroom, I should say, and she's been placed on administrative leave. So I think voters want to know what is going on with Bexar County Court at Law number 13, right? The court still exists. The judge that was there was removed. You defeated her in the March primary. There's not a Republican that's running. So you are the judge-elect of County Court at Law number 13, which is a fun thing for us to say. And it's an interesting thing because normally you go through the primary, then you have the November election, right? So for those that are listening, can you explain to us what's going on with the actual court that's there at the moment?
Yeah. So at this time, the judge is suspended from the bench, but still holds that position. So right now, the court is using a system of visiting judges to cover the docket. And until such time that the judge steps down or is formally removed, that's the system that will be in place. Now, if one of those changes took place before January 1st, then a judge could be appointed, like a steady, specific judge could be appointed to fill that bench until January 1st, but we don't have any indication yet for sure what's going to happen.
So now former judge, lost her election. She's been placed on administrative leave. And so are we paying for two judges, essentially, the judge that's there that was elected and an administrative judge or visiting judge?
My understanding is that she's been suspended without pay. So if
Okay.
that's the case, then we're just paying the visiting judges.
Okay, well, that's interesting, and I'm sure something that you have to kind of tiptoe around. And I love how diplomatic and polished you are about your answers. So we'll move on from there. What I do want to know, and what I do think that people want to know, is who is Alicia Perez? Who is this lady that stood up and decided to run? What do you want folks to know about you?
That's such a wide open question. I could give you any sort of answer. So it's more like what specifics are helpful to know about me.
Yeah, like the personality. Let's ask this. What should the attorneys expect from a judge, Alicia Perez?
Well, I come at everything with a positive attitude and with the belief that we're going to figure things out and there's always a good solution. And I hold efficiency very high as a value. I don't think we should spend energy emotionally or professionally with the work we have to do. If there's a legal, fair, safe way to get things done, then we'll get it done that way. This is a misdemeanor court. Attorneys are appointed to the wheel. I hope attorneys join the wheel knowing that if they have a case in my court, they're going to have professional treatment. Their cases will move along as quickly as possible. I will honor agreements between the attorneys. I'm there to facilitate the cases, not to add any drama or stress to them. I want to do my job, get as much done as we can, and then go home and relax like everybody else. So we'll go in with a good attitude. We'll do the best we can and make everything happen as well, efficiently, and honoring the law. And then we'll go home.
Well, I mean, having no drama from a judge is kind of a good thing, right? Like that's kind of the fear is when you go in, is the judge having a bad day? Are they in a bad mood? And so I love your commitment to make sure that we're running the court with efficiency. I think that's fabulous. And for the voters of Bexar County, those people that might be affected by the criminal justice system in one way or another and end up in front of you, what do you want, as we call them, the Mrs. Martinez's of the world, to know?
Well, I want Mrs. Martinez to know that I'm going to make every effort when it's my chance to speak to the parties. I'm going to make sure that I'm listening and that I'm understanding. I'm asking questions and seeking to understand, so I know where you're at and what your issues are, so that our resolutions are really solving your problems as you understand them, as opposed to just what the court might assume. The court's not going to assume anything. We're going to listen, we're going to apply the law and give you the solution that fits your situation best, because people come to court with all kinds of pain and suffering from what's happened in their case. And when we listen to people and find out what's really affecting them, we can sometimes come up with better solutions than if we don't take the time to do that. So I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to hear what your priorities are, and as best we can within the law, we're going to make sure we answer to you and find a solution that satisfies you and your community and makes you safer and feel more confident.
Excellent. The only thing I can think of as the attorneys approach your bench, I feel like everybody should approach your bench and we should all say, we listen and we don't judge.
Well, that's the thing about judging, is judges are there to talk about the law, it's not a personal judgment. Judges aren't up there to give personal opinions about their life versus your life. That's kind of how it gets sometimes in court, or what we've seen on TV is like you're expecting a big takedown, like here's my judgment on you, but that's not what the job is at all. I think we've gotten that confused in popular culture. It's fun to watch on TV, but it's also not what the actual courtroom is supposed to be about.
In practice, it should be about the humanity. And, I've heard folks say that when they're experiencing the criminal justice system, whether it's law enforcement or having to deal with law enforcement, the police, or having to deal with judges and lawyers, sometimes that's the worst day in their life, right? And so I love that you're approaching this with a sense of human decency, because that's what's important, is treating our community, and that's what we expect of our elected officials, is to treat our community with human decency
and a respect for what we don't know about your life. Because when a judge finally looks at a case or takes a plea, usually judges they're not supposed to know, you're not supposed to know any facts about the case. And so when it comes to the time of a plea, you might know some more, but you definitely don't know people's full situation. So it's not really appropriate to make certain personal comments about people or what they've done or how they're going to feel about this, because you don't know that stuff about them. You don't have enough knowledge. So if you don't know that stuff, the best you can do, and your job under the law, is to say, okay, here's what we do know, here's how the law fits, and this is what we can do, and refrain from doing the things that make it worse and make it more stressful, more confusing. Yeah, we don't want people to leave more upset than when they came in.
Sure. No, that makes perfect sense. I have to ask, what are you looking forward to the most, right? So it's interesting. You won the election in March, as we mentioned before. You're the judge-elect because there's nobody in November. So what is, like, you have like now 10 months of anticipation. So what are you looking forward to the most? Is it getting the gavel? Is it wearing the robe? Is it moving to the office? Like, what are you most anticipating?
Well, I see this as a job I got hired for 4 years. So I'm not going to move all of my worldly belongings into that office. I'm going to respect the space. This is a place I'm going to be for a period of time, and I want to see what I can get done. An interesting thing about this court, that traditionally, the court is known for being the home of the Reflejo pilot project, which is intended to be a specialty court, but didn't attain that status yet. And so since the judge was removed from the bench, the court has moved under Judge Jimenez of County Court 4, and he's very interested in and dedicated in it. So it turns out that he is looking to keep that court, that specialty pilot project in his court. That runs for another year till we see what is going to happen with it or not. So that is actually not something that's not a challenge that I'm going to have to take on. And so that really makes it interesting as far as what could I do with this space now, and how could I contribute to the courthouse in the time that I'm there? What kind of difference could I make? That's what I'm just starting thinking about.
Wow. Well, only time will tell.
Well, I did talk a lot about accessibility on the campaign trail, because there's not a lot of notices at the courthouse about ADA access and how to get help if you need it. So I've started digging into that. And it turns out court coordinators are in charge of ADA access. And my suspicion is that the amount of training that those people get on it and what judges get on it is probably something we can supplement. And I'm going to start looking into that now to see how we could, not just on the criminal side, but also on the civil side, how could we have more signage for people to understand how to use the ADA? It's like when you have a disability and you're not understanding court, you don't get help unless you announce, I have a disability, I can't access this court properly, and I need accommodations. So it's not a right that exists until you invoke it. So it is a good amount of time, and that's something that I'm going to start looking into, is how can I understand what's going on now and figure out how I could help support making it more accessible, or maybe even having a court that's ADA specific. How could we do accommodations? How could we have a special docket just to provide the best accommodations possible? If somebody doesn't need like treatment ongoing, but just they need accommodations to get through their hearing and understand it, like how could we set that up? So that's exciting to me.
And the world is your oyster. You get to figure it out and make it happen, and you have the ability to do so now that you're elected by the people to serve for the next 4 years. I think that's fabulous. Well, I'm excited to see what comes of county court. at law number 13. I know there's been a lot of drama and tawdry intrigue, and so it'll probably be really nice for those that are affected by this court to have a nice, steady, calm leadership. It seems that the energy that you bring to the table is very steady and very well thought of. So we're excited to see that. Is there anything you want the voters of Bexar County to know before you head out?
I'm just so grateful for your confidence, and it's a humbling process to go through any election. Everybody who runs deserves credit for putting their life on the line to go through this process. I think we should always have competitors to make sure that we're picking our favorite option, the best option for the moment. And so I give a lot of credit to my opponent and everybody who ran. I'm grateful to have the chance to follow through, and it's not something I take lightly. So I'm just really grateful, and I look forward to seeing how much good I can do in the time that I have.
All right, you heard her here first on Platica Politica. Thank you so much, Judge-elect Alicia Perez. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Estás escuchando Platica Política. Quédate con nosotros para enterarte de las últimas noticias, análisis políticos y un poco de chisme. Aquí en Queda Radio Jalapeño.
Así es. Escúchanos en directo, síguenos en las redes sociales o sintoniza donde quiera que escuches tus podcasts favoritos.
And we're back on Platica Politica. We're going to take a little bit of a different direction. There's a concerning new trend in San Antonio. I shouldn't say new, but it is an increased trend in which there have been close to 3,000 commercial vehicle accidents in Bexar County alone. And out of those, 18 of them were fatalities. So joining us this morning is David Tijerina from Carabin Law to talk about that concerning trend. David, how are you doing this morning?
I am doing well. It's good to see you, Robert.
It's good to see you. Welcome to Platica Politica. Hey, listen, what is going on with these 18-wheeler issues?
Well, you know, I see how I'm not surprised there's an increase. In the state of Texas in particular, and a lot of the states in the South, there are laws that protect 18-wheelers. It's not that easy to sue them.
Okay.
You know, that's why you see a lot of attorneys advertising a particular expertise. With regard to our expertise, you know, I actually defended them for the first 5 years of my career at a big law firm in Dallas. Now I jumped to the other side. Kirsten Carabin, who owns the law firm, she actually managed an 18-wheeler. So, but the answer to your question is just, I think the 18-wheeler companies have been lulled into a sense of security because the plaintiff's attorneys do have to jump through a lot of hoops. We have to jump through a lot of hoops in order to sue them, in order to recover. Also, I think that there's probably been less of an incentive on their part as the laws start to protect these 18-wheelers to follow the federal rules. You know, they have particular federal rules that they have to apply, the federal standards, and they're not governed so much, although they are, by the same laws that you and I have to abide by. So, you know, and it's just a matter of getting, you know, items to stores and deliveries and having to meet deadlines. So with all of these factors come into play, and you see an increase in catastrophic injuries.
So obviously, other than size and all that, why are 18-wheeler crashes more catastrophic, I can't talk this morning, than regular passenger vehicle accidents?
Well, the main reason is the sheer size
of
an 18-wheeler. You're talking about a several thousand-pound truck on the road. They cannot stop. So often when I'm driving on the road, I never drive in back of one, I never drive in front of one, and I certainly don't drive to the side because it's very difficult for them to see. But you're talking about an 18-wheeler. Many of them are governed. That means that they can't go over a certain speed. But even at 50, 60 miles per hour, they cannot stop like a vehicle. A vehicle, you put your brakes in and it stops within a quantifiable and expected amount of time, depending on how fast you're going. But an 18-wheeler, they cannot stop. It takes a while. So if you pull in front of them and brake check them, you're likely to get hit, and then the sheer weight of the 18-wheeler causes so much damage, and then the increased damage oftentimes leads to more severe injury. So I have handled over the years 18-wheeler accidents involving fatalities. That's one thing, but you can, even if it doesn't kill you when you get hit by an 18-wheeler, it certainly can change your life forever, because you can end up with catastrophic, ongoing, chronic injury.
You brought up something really interesting about staying away from the truck, as far as like, don't go around it, or, just avoid their blind spots. So what should drivers who are not 18-wheeler drivers, but regular, Mrs. Martinez driving on the road, what should she need to know, or what does she need to know about blind spots that these trucks have?
Okay. So it's hard to say, at this part of the 18-wheeler, if you're on the side, you're not going to be seen. Okay. It's best to assume that when you're driving next to an 18-wheeler, they cannot see you. So it's your job to make sure they see you. The only way that happens is if you're driving on front of them, preferably not in front of them, but forward, so in the next lane, so they can see you, or back, because they can see through the rearview mirrors pretty far back. Okay. Sure. Many of the new 18-wheelers have cameras, as they can see in front, in the back, but I wouldn't rely on that. I wouldn't say, let me drive in front of an 18-wheeler, because I'm sure he's going to be able to see me. If you have to brake unexpectedly, then you're risking the fact that they may hit you. And understand you don't want to have any car accidents, but an 18-wheeler strike is something that you will remember for the rest of your life. So don't drive in the blind spots. That's usually the same as a car. Don't drive to the sides. Don't drive. It's probably safer to drive in back of them with enough distance. But if you can, always drive way in front, way in back, not in the same lane.
Okay, that's interesting. So God forbid we are in an accident with an 18-wheeler. Is the 18-wheeler automatically held responsible? The company, the driver, what does that look like?
No. You can be found at fault, particularly by the carrier, by the insurance company. If you say...
You're talking about the driver, the passengers of the passenger vehicles, not the commercial drivers.
I'm talking about I'm talking about automobiles, passenger vehicles. You can be found to be the cause of an accident. I handled one where it was a head-on collision, and it was the father who he had his 3 children and a wife in the vehicle, and he was, after we got all of the detectors and we had the readings, mechanical readings to show how fast he was driving, he lost control of his car, hit head on, and killed his whole family. So yes, you can be found to be liable. But what was your question again? I forgot it.
You've got so much knowledge in your head that you're just giving us
so much information.
We're talking about who can
fault.
be held responsible.
Right.
Yeah.
But understand that even if you think you're at fault, the 18-wheeler companies have a lot of federal regulations that they have to comply with. So it behooves you to call a lawyer. Hopefully you're calling Carabin Law, but call a lawyer who understands that just because you say, well, I was leaving a private drive and he was already in the road, so obviously it was my fault. It's not always what it seems. The 18-wheeler has to follow a multitude of regulations. And if they did not follow a certain regulation that would have kept them from hitting you, regardless of the fact that you left a private drive, that's a case that I can't promise you anything, but that's a case that I want to take a look at.
So let me ask you this. God forbid someone is in an accident, on their way home, whether it's an 18-wheeler or a regular, passenger vehicle. What do we need to know? What's the first thing we should do? Like, should we be calling a lawyer right away? Should we call the cops? Should we take pictures? What does that look like?
Well, if you call a lawyer right away, yes, that would be called. But this is what I would say, assuming you are not hurt. Rule number 1, if you're hurt, call an ambulance, get some medical treatment. That's always the most important thing, because you could be dealing with a significant head injury, and Sometimes head injuries get worse very quickly. And then by the time you get medical treatment, you can be in a really difficult position medically. But if you are okay, if you feel up to it, the best thing to do is to take photos. And one of the mistakes that people make all the time, and I think it's just maybe human nature, is if there's a dent in the car, they give me a picture of the dent. Yeah, that's wonderful. But I need you to stand back.
You need the whole car, not just the little dent.
Preferably, you take one from the front, the back, the sides. Then you can take a picture of the dents right up close. But I need to see the whole vehicle. And, today, they didn't have this when I was young. But, today you can go like that to enlarge. So
yeah, you can zoom in. Yeah, now you can zoom in the pictures.
Yeah. I don't even know the zoom. I just say you can go like that. Okay. And
go like that.
I can see the dent. I don't need you to be on top of the dent.
Yeah.
And then take a picture of the 18-wheeler. I need the now 18-wheelers. It's not just licenses. They have identifying information on the doors. That helps me. It tells me who the company is.
Yeah.
It tells me, where I need to send the letters, where I need to send letters of representation, and later on, it helps me to determine who I need to sue.
No, absolutely. All right. And how can people get a hold of you, David?
Okay, I work at Carabin Law. It is owned by the famous Kirsten Carabin. Now, I want to make this very clear. We are Carabin Law. There is no other name. There is another firm that has two names in it. That's Kirsten's old firm. There is no Carabin at that firm. We work at Carabin Law, and I'm a partner at the firm. And we are at 210-224-5555. And we have we're soon to be 3 offices. We're right now 2 offices, one near San Antonio College on Locust Street. And then we also have one on the south side on Southwest Military Drive.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, David. You're listening to Platica Politica on KEDA Radio Jalapeno. We'll be right back.
I'm voting for more than just a person.
I'm voting for affordable housing.
I'm voting for my education. I'm voting for women's rights.
I'm voting for a fair living wage.
I'm voting
for
our future.
For my family.
I'm voting because my life depends on it. Listen, it's time to reclaim your vote. Whatever your reason, whatever your issue, just vote.
I'm voting. Are you?
Go to reclaimyourvote.org for more.
This message is paid for by the National Urban League.
Welcome back to Platica Politica. I always say there's no better telenovela than Texas politics. So having said that, joining us is Katy Padilla Stout, who's running for Congressional District 23. How are you doing, Katy?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so thrilled that, number one, you're running for Congressional District 23, and number two, that you're here with us today so that our radio listeners can learn about you, your race, and what you got going on. So speaking of telenovelas, how is the race for Texas Congressional District 23 going?
It's definitely fast-paced, so you definitely have to stay tuned to see which twist is coming next. It has been one exciting turn after another, and so we are here, and we've definitely hit the ground running.
I would venture to say that a year ago, people were looking at Congressman Tony Gonzalez and saying that guy is going to be in the Republican candidate. He might even be running for president one day. And I always say everyone is, everybody thinks that everyone's unbeatable until they're not. And clearly he has fallen from grace with the controversy surrounding him and his campaign. I don't want to go into that because that's not what we're here to talk about. But now you find yourself facing off with a new challenger, a gentleman named Brandon Herrera, as the Republican. So how are you feeling about the race now that we're over the primary and you know who your opponent is in November?
I feel confident that there are definitely going to be two very different candidates for voters to choose from. I think that our differences are quite stark, and I'm here to represent Texas and happy, healthy families, and especially protect our children and our senior citizens.
Absolutely. So you got in the race for Congress, and you had several opponents. You beat them all in the primary resoundingly. Let me tell you, I was amazed to see that. How many folks were there in this race? There was 5?
4.
There were 4.
There were 4.
and you came out on top right out the bat swinging, which is super impressive. Let me tell you, super impressive. The district, where exactly is Congressional District 23?
So it goes all the way from the south part of El Paso, all the way down to, we hit Presidio, we hit Marfa, we hit a lot of small counties, rural area until we get to San Antonio. And then we have part of San Antonio, kind of like a crescent there from the south side all the way to the Dominion, Helotes area. And then we go all the way to Uvalde. And then we keep going all the way down to Maverick Eagle Pass in Del Rio.
That's amazing. And what I love about having you on this show is that our listeners are from Gonzales, San Antonio, all the way down to Uvalde. So you got listeners from all across Texas. What was your reason for jumping in this campaign, other than a lot of us thought Tony Gonzalez was crazy and needed to go?
Well, there was that. I mean, you're from here, and so everybody in this side of Texas understood about Tony Gonzalez's scandal from September, right? It hit the national media here recently, but everyone that's been around here has been privy to that information for quite some time. And so I knew that was definitely going to make him vulnerable. And so then, in speaking with my husband, I'm like, well, who's up to bat, right? Who do we think is going to come up next? Because we're in a pretty red district. This is the district we live in, the district I'm raising my children in. And when he told me that it was Brandon, my stomach just dropped, like my heart just dropped.
Yep.
And thinking that individual was going to represent my children. And then my heart dropped again when I realized, oh my gosh, like Uvalde is in the district. Like, how is this possible? Like, how can we do this? Yep. And so that really kind of started the narrative of, okay, well, what am I going to do? Right? Like, what can we do to help prevent this? What should we do? And then we just saw the current administration continue to attack our most vulnerable, most specifically with the threatening to cut SNAP benefits for our most vulnerable children and our most vulnerable elderly. And I just realized this administration is not going to stop putting our most vulnerable up for collateral. And there's no doubt in my mind that Brandon is a rubber stamp for anything Trump wants to do. And, now he has his endorsement. First, a month ago, he had a cease and desist letter from the administration saying, don't mention our name, don't talk about us. We don't want anything to do with you.
I forgot that Donald Trump sent Brandon a letter telling him stop using it, saying, keep my name out your mouth. And now he's saying, put my name in your mail pieces and say I'm supporting you. Like, what the heck?
And now he's like, he's the most amazing patriot ever. And we're like, okay, that's not what you were saying 4 weeks ago, but all right.
But okay.
So of course he's going to want to keep that favor, right? Which means he's ready to rubber stamp whatever the administration wants to do.
Yeah, he's going to be an automatic vote for Donald Trump. That goes without saying. I absolutely agree. Now, what are some of the policies? Why is it that people should vote for you over Brandon Herrera, other than he's a Trump puppet for all intents and purposes?
Well, I think it's interesting if you note possibly why Brandon is in this race to begin with, right? He was upset that Tony voted for a bipartisan bill that came forward after the Uvalde shooting. Tony was censured by the Republicans for this, even though it didn't really affect Texans at all. And so what it did was harm or hurt Brandon probably financially because he has a gun manufacturer business. And so, he came out for that reason, right? He wanted to take Tony down for that reason, but he's not from here. He doesn't have any roots here. His business is still in North Carolina.
Really?
Yes. So I think that is the part that is concerning as well, especially those of us who have grown up here, right? Like we're from here, we've been here. And so he claims to have deep Texas roots, but he came after COVID. I'm like, my first grader has been here longer, has deeper roots, right? Than this candidate that's running. And so I think that if somebody's going to represent us, I at least want it to be someone that's from the district that understands the nuances of that, that has grown up here and been here and, is a part of this community.
Absolutely. It's amazing to me that MAGA Republicans, we talk about Brandon being a rubber stamp for Donald Trump, and it's amazing to me that Republicans are doing everything in their power to take away our rights, from everything from women's issues to our ability to vote, and to incarcerating Latinos and our people. We've seen people go to jail, or not even jail because it's not a real jail. They're concentration camps of sorts by these, people on the streets. It's amazing to me to see that. And yet someone like Brandon Herrera is running to protect Donald Trump. And that just amazes me.
It really does. I mean, I think those of us who are not MAGA are still very confused, right? We've been confused for a really long time, and now we're even more confused, and everyone's like, well, how can this be? Or how can they do that? Or what are, and they're just two completely different mindsets, right? And
Yeah.
the fact that you think that you can identify who's an American citizen simply by looking at them is completely ludicrous. And we know that, right? We know
Yeah.
that there's no way to determine that by just looking at someone. And the fact that we want to go back to show me your papers is just really not okay. Like I said, I'm raising my children in this district. I'm raising my children in this country. And I wasn't about to give them a country that had less rights than their mother and their grandparents did. And
I'm sorry. I was going to say, speaking of this, the government is facing a shutdown of sorts, right? Congress is stuck in a funding standoff over DHS funding. It's tied heavily to these immigration policies. What do you want to do differently than what these folks are trying to do right now?
Well, I think our messaging as Democrats has always been a little bit difficult because we tend to want to put in all of the nuances and the caveats and, make this really complicated. And it's really not that complicated, right? Like, why are we having to choose from, being militarized in our streets by ICE officials who are not properly trained, right? Or going on spring break? Like, why are those two things connected? They shouldn't be. They have nothing to do with one another. The Democrats are saying fund TSA. We're not telling you to not fund TSA. Fund it. Let's go, right? Has absolutely nothing to do with what they want to tie it to, but they want to tie this to their funding to be able to continue to militarize American streets.
I saw in a video, TikTok of all places, because I think a lot of us get our news from TikTok, that Donald Trump is now trying to tie all sorts of things like that have nothing to do with immigration to this policy. Do you think that Republicans are going to cower? Do you think are we going to survive this next DHS vote?
Well, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that the Democrats will stand firm on what they need to stand firm on and that those moderate Republicans will come out as well, just to protect America, right? At this point, it shouldn't be about party. It's about people over politics and making sure that we are able to keep our country a democracy and to be able to keep our rights intact. And I think that's in everyone's best interest.
What other policies are you focused on? Immigration is obviously a big deal. What are some of the key priorities that you're touting in your campaign?
So we're really focusing on affordability. People are really facing this time in our country when wages are higher than ever, and yet the cost of living keeps skyrocketing and inflation keeps skyrocketing, and people don't know if they can buy a home. People don't know if they're going to be able to go to college. So affordability is definitely something we hear on the campaign trail quite a bit, especially in regard to grocery prices and tariffs and how that's affecting everyone. And so we are trying to address that and make sure, because if people don't feel like they can afford things, if they don't feel stable enough in their own finances and their ability to raise their family, it's going to be very hard for a society to function, right? It's going to be very hard for us to focus on those other higher level needs that we need to do. So we're definitely focused on affordability. We're also focused on healthcare. A lot of our area is rural. And, Robert, I know you know me personally. And so, my father had sepsis this past summer and he was in a rural hospital and he wouldn't be here with us if it wasn't for that rural hospital that is set to close, right? And so we hear from a lot of people that say, hey, I want to stay in the town that I grew up in, right? That I've been here my whole entire life. I don't want to relocate at 76 because now I need to get to a doctor more often and the closest one is 3 hours away. And so being able to do that would be helpful.
It's amazing to me that a lot of our rural friends that live out in some of these areas like Uvalde and Atascosa and whatnot can't get good healthcare in their own hometown. That's amazing to me.
It really is, on another personal level. My uncle had battled leukemia and my dad was a stem cell donor for him before Elliot was born. So now a little bit over 7 years ago, and he's having to redo chemo. And so he has to come and go from San Antonio every single day, Monday through Friday, once a month, for the next 6 months. And that's going to be a huge inconvenience where he could receive that same treatment in the hospital there if it weren't for the closures and the staff cuttings.
That's amazing. We really need to be making sure that our folks all across this state and all across this country have access to healthcare, right? We shouldn't be beholden.
We shouldn't. I mean, healthcare is a right. You have the right to be healthy. You have the right to see a doctor. You should be able to have these basic rights in a country that is as great as ours.
I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about this bill that that's on in Congress right now. It's called the SAVE Act. It stands for the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. And what this bill does is it requires proof of citizenship to register. They want everybody to re-register to vote from scratch, stricter voter ID requirements. It's got gets rid of voting by mail. What do you think happens here? How are we going to survive this?
Well, I think it's interesting because they keep looking into voter fraud. I think they were just looking into it again somewhere, I don't know, New Mexico or something, and they can't find it. And so it reminds me of what me and my friends joke about, which is, you're getting ready for like a party and your husband wants to go out and like clean the garage, or like no one's going in the garage. Like the garage is not a problem. Like why are you putting so much effort into this when we have like real things we need to accomplish? And so I feel like that with the SAVE Act, I'm like, we don't have incidents of voter fraud, right?
Yeah,
like that's not the big thing you think it is. And so why are we putting so much effort into this when we have real problems that we need to solve and address? But I think that it is going to harm so many people on both sides of the aisle, right? I mean, if you're going to make it hard, you're going to make it hard for everyone. It's not like they're only going to make it hard for Democrats. They're going to make it hard for Republicans as well.
Yeah.
And so we want people to participate in democracy. Why do we want to make it harder for them to be able to do that? Texas is already one of the hardest states to be able to register in. We don't allow, they make the training to be a voter deputy registrar so hard. They make these steps so complicated. We're already one of the hardest ones. Like, why do you want to make this harder across the entire country? Blows my mind.
So you're absolutely right. So you're an attorney. You practice law in Bexar County and all over Texas. So I have to ask you, what can we do to limit the president's war powers when we're talking about this war, not war? We say it's a war, but then all of a sudden Speaker Mike Johnson is saying, oh, it's not a war, it's a conflict. Like, they're throwing us into this thing that at the end of the day, all it's doing is raising our gas prices and taking innocent lives, including some of our American soldiers, right? What can we do? What can you as an attorney, as a congresswoman do about that?
So obviously I'm not there yet, right? And so I'm kind of limited to what we can do, but I think that we've shown. But I think what we're going to show is that our voices are really loud, and this president really is, worried about his popularity and whether or not people like him and whether or not they think that that's okay. This is why you have to have a two-party system. This is why extremism does not work. This is why we're supposed to have checks and balances. And unfortunately, we can't while one party is running the entire show. I think it's comical that they want to blame Democrats when I'm like, you are running the entire show. You have the majority of the justices appointed on the Supreme Court. You have the House, you have the Senate, you have the White House. This is all on you. This is your show. We are not causing the problem here. This is your show. And so you need to be able to take some responsibility for that. And Congress needs to hold him accountable and go back to the War Powers Act and get that congressional approval, because the death toll is rising by the day. Our soldiers are the ones that are paying the price, and it's not acceptable and it's not okay.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. You're not going to hear any argument from me on that. I'd love to sit here and push back, but I completely agree with everything you're saying. It's so important that we hold the president in power. And you're right. Republicans cannot blame Democrats or Joe Biden. At some point, you've been there a year, Donald Trump. Like, you've been there a year. Stop blaming Joe Biden. It reminds me of, I think of Donald Trump, and I think of like the crazy ex that won't go away and they keep blaming you for all their problems. You're like, I haven't been around for a year. Stop blaming me for this stuff. Having said that, you said they've got Republicans have the House, they have the Senate, they have the presidency, and they have most of the justices on the Supreme Court. Anything that's happening in our country, they own it. It is on them, and it's time for us to create change. Katy Padilla Stout, tell us a little bit about why people should vote for you. What do you want folks to know before you go?
Well, I think people should vote for me because I'm a real Texan. I have a real job, right? I
No
face real
shade
things.
whatsoever right there.
I'm a mother of 4. I want to make this country a better place, and especially this district, for our kids, for all of our kids, for the generation that comes next. I'm a common sense individual that's here with common sense plans, and I can work with a lot of different types of people, and I'm ready to do the job.
All right. Where can they learn more about you?
So at katyforcongress.com, KATYFOR, congress.com would be a great place to go.
All right. Thank you so much. That's Katy Padilla Stout running for Texas Congressional District 23. Y'all go out and vote. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Looking for a career that makes a difference? The City of San Antonio is hiring. Careers at the City of San Antonio play a vital role in our community. Our jobs help keep our city working for families in our community. Working with the city is more than a job. It's a purpose. We have a job for you. For a list of career opportunities, visit sa.gov/careers.
All right. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Thank you so much for being with us today on this hour of Platica Politica. Man, we covered a lot of chisme. I always say there's no better telenovela than Texas politics, and sometimes you can see that showcased right here in Bexar County. You never know what Democratic primary voters are going to do. So I always tell people, get involved in politics. Throw your name in the hat. Run a good campaign because, listen, every politician is perceived to be unbeatable until they are very beatable, as we've seen in Texas Congressional District 23. Who would have thought that Tony Gonzalez's campaign would have come to such an unceremonious end, with even members of his own party calling for him to end his campaign. Having said that, now many people believe that Katy Padilla Stout has a real shot at defeating Brandon Herrera in the November election, but that's only going to happen if you all go out and vote. Also surprising to learn all about the interesting things that have been going on down at the Bexar County Courthouse, or as I've heard some people call it, Bexar County High School. So stick with us. We'll be back next Saturday, I should say, for another somewhat dramatic hour of Platica Politica. You just never know what's going to happen in Bexar County politics, and we're here to talk about it and make sure that you're informed so that when you go out to vote or when you're engaging with your public officials, you know what exactly is going on. So thank you for joining us for another beautiful Saturday morning right here on KEDA Radio Jalapeno. We will see you next week.